My mother-in-law bought iPhone 17 Pro Max for all grandkids except mine. She is adopted, she said, so I cut her off, and she will never meet my new son. Reddit, hello. Due to her adoption, my daughter was purposefully left out of a family gift by my mother-in-law. I therefore disconnected her from the rest of the family. Absolute mayhem ensued. This is the complete tale. I'm a 36-year-old Finn who has been married to my 35-year-old wife, Aria, for 9 years. Ella, our only child, is 8 years old. After years of infertility issues, which I won't go into because that isn't the subject of this story, we adopted her when she was 9 months old. Audrey, Aria's mother, has always been one of those ladies who believes her viewpoint is more important than anybody else's. You are aware of the kind. The type of person that unexpectedly shows up at your house and rearranges your kitchen cabinets because they think it would be more efficient that way. The type of person who, after her own children became catastrophes, offers uninvited parenting advice. Audrey has a total of 3 children. Aria is by far the most successful and oldest. She bought our house when she was 30 years old, works as a civil engineer for 6 figures, and generally has her life together. Next up is Mark, Aria's 32-year-old brother who works in sales. He's a decent man, but not very exceptional. The youngest is Michelle, Aria's sister, who is 28 years old, works part-time at a salon, and her husband handles the majority of their household expenses. This is where it becomes pertinent. Mark's 2 children are 10 and 12 years old. Michelle has a 7-year-old child. At family get-togethers, Audrey won't stop talking about her biological children, all of whom are the result of flawless textbook pregnancies. Audrey expressed her thoughts rather clearly when Aria and I first began the adoption process. Little remarks here and there, nothing explicit enough to call her out on. Are you sure about this? What if the biological parents come back? Alternatively, sometimes these fertility issues resolve themselves if you just relax and stop trying so hard. Aria was particularly annoyed by that second one. For 6 years, we had been trying. 6 years of frustration, doctor visits, intrusive procedures, and growing debt from ineffective treatments. And Audrey's wise medical counsel was to simply unwind. As if all the aunts and distant cousins who believed they were being helpful hadn't told us that. We were ecstatic to be matched with Ella at last. This adorable 9-month-old has the cutest smile you've ever seen, along with these enormous brown eyes. On a Tuesday, the adoption agency gave us a call. That Friday, we met her, and by the next month, she was ours. When we got Aria home, she sobbed nonstop for almost 1 hour, tears of joy. The kind that makes you understand that, in the best manner conceivable, your life has just altered forever. Audrey's response at meeting baby Ella. Oh, she's lovely. Will you keep her original name or change it? Isn't a conventional grandmother's way of saying, she's beautiful, or offering congratulations. Just this strange professional inquiry about her name, as if we were adopting a puppy. In honor of my wife, we gave her the name Ella Rebecca. Audrey didn't say anything about that either. Everyone in the family noted Audrey's strange emotional remoteness during the first 9 years of Ella's childhood, but no one wanted to confront it head-on. She would attend Ella's birthday celebrations, but she would spend the entire time swooning over Michelle's or Mark's children. She would purchase Christmas presents for each of the grandchildren, but Ella's purchases were consistently notably less incredible, less considerate. Mark's oldest child received expensive or remote control car 1 year, which probably cost $180. A tablet was given to his younger child. Michelle's child received an abundance of art supplies. Ella received a $25 Target gift card. Aria took note. I took note. When Ella was old enough to evaluate her gifts against those of her relatives, around the age of 6, she even began to notice. However, what were we to do? Point the finger at a grandparent for not showing our child enough love? Nobody wants to talk about that. We attempted to deal with it in a roundabout way. Aria would talk about how Ella cherished her time with Grandma Audrey and that they could spend more time together alone. Audrey would wholeheartedly concur but never act on it. She would take Michelle's child to get ice cream or Mark's children to the zoo, but she never had time for Ella. 3 weeks ago, during what was meant to be a pleasant family dinner at Audrey's house, the breaking point occurred. All 3 of Audrey's children, their spouses, and all of their grandchildren had been invited. Perhaps once a month these meals are held, generally to commemorate a special occasion, or simply because Audrey enjoyed having everyone together to remind herself that she had successfully reproduced. We arrived at approximately 5 p.m. on a Saturday. There were already the other families present. While the grown-ups gathered in the kitchen, children played in the backyard. Quite a typical scenario. Audrey called all of the grandchildren into the living room about 20 minutes after we got there. She appeared to be preparing to announce that she had won the lottery, as evidenced by the enormous smile on her face. She said, "I have something special for my precious grandchildren," and reached under the couch to retrieve a shopping bag. She distributed boxes one by one. iPhone 17 Pro Max packaging. The most recent model, which cost roughly $1,200 each, had just been released. Mark's 2 children received one. Even though Michelle's child was only 7 years old and had no business owning a $1,200 phone, she still bought one. As she waited her turn, Ella was bouncing up and down with excitement since she had seen her cousins receive such wonderful presents and imagined she would also receive one. After giving Michelle's 7-year-old the final phone, Audrey turned to the adults and began discussing the phone plans she had set up for each device. Ella just stood there, perplexed. She was 8 years old and found it difficult to comprehend what was going on. She glanced at Audrey, then at Arya, then at me. "Grandma Audrey," Ella murmured. "Did you forget mine?" The room was silent. Every adult paused in the middle of their sentence. All of a sudden, Mark and Michelle were fascinated by their shoes. I felt my blood pressure rise as Audrey cast a phony, contrite grin down at Ella. My wife's face turned pale as she said, "Oh, sweetheart, these are for my grandchildren. You understand, right?" As she took in what her mother had just spoken in front of everyone, I literally saw the color drain from her cheeks. Arya whispered, "Mom," in a trembling voice. Audrey dismissively waved her hand and said, "Ella is your grandchild." She responded rather casually, "You know what I mean, Arya. These are for my real grandchildren, the ones who are actually family." It didn't sound like she was telling an 8-year-old that she wasn't truly a member of the family. Rather, it sounded like she was explaining why she had chosen chocolate ice cream over vanilla. Ella started crying, but it wasn't the kind of crying children do when they don't get their way. The kind of tears that come from real emotional pain, the grieved, devastated kind. She sobbed and hid her face in Arya's leg. Arya picked her up right away and gave her mother a look I had never seen her make before. It was terrible to see the mixture of deep hurt and pure wrath. "We're leaving," Arya stated bluntly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Audrey said. I knew this woman was dead when she said, "She'll understand when she's older." This is about blood family, Arya. You can't expect me to treat an adopted child the same as my real grandchildren. I remained silent. Didn't have to. Without saying anything more, I simply took Arya's hand, picked up the diaper bag we had brought with Ella's belongings, and left the house. Michelle and Mark remained silent. Their husbands remained silent. Unaware that their grandmother had just caused psychological harm to their cousin, they all just stood there and watched us go while their children fiddled with their new phones. It was a terrible drive home. Arya cried all the way. In her vehicle seat, Ella sobbed herself to sleep. I kept replaying that scenario in my mind while gripping the driving wheel until my knuckles turned white. My real grandchildren. I couldn't stop thinking about that. For 9 years, Ella was a member of this family. 9 years of family dinners, holidays, and birthday celebrations. For 9 years, Audrey called her grandmother, asked when she might spend sleepovers at her house like her cousins did, and drew pictures for her. Audrey had made it quite evident that none of that mattered to her in a single, casual statement. There would never be true family with Ella. She was only the child that Arya and I had brought home when we were unable to produce biological children. Arya and I had a lengthy discussion about what to do next that evening after we had managed to calm Ella down and get her into bed. Arya kept saying, "I can't believe she did that," as she paced our bedroom. I can't believe my own mother would hurt Ella like that in front of everyone, in front of the other kids." "What do you want to do?" I responded. Arya said, "I want to never speak to her again. Right away." Then she stopped. "But I don't know if I can actually do that. She's my mom and Mark and Michelle are still going to those family dinners. And Ella's going to wonder why her cousins get to see Grandma. But she doesn't. The thing about my wife is this. She is one of those individuals that consistently see the best in everyone, even if they don't deserve it." For 9 years she had been rationalizing Audrey's treatment of Ella, telling herself that things would improve and that Audrey simply needed time to get used to having an adopted grandchild. However, I had had enough of making excuses. I said, "Arya," very cautiously, "your mother just told our daughter that she's not really family. In front of everyone she bought 1,000 phones for kids who don't even need them and deliberately excluded Ella because she's adopted. That's not something you come back from." "I know," she said quietly. "I know. But what am I supposed to do? Cut off my own mother if she can't treat our daughter with basic human decency?" "Yeah, that's exactly what you do." We were up until 3 in the morning. discussing it. Arya wavered between wanting to cut Audrey off entirely and wanting to give her another chance to make amends. I was aware of what would occur if we let her the opportunity. Audrey would say something like, "I'm sorry you were upset," but she would never really own up to her mistakes. She would then anticipate that everything would return to normal and we would be back to where we were. Arya had come to the conclusion that we needed to establish some firm boundaries by the time we finally went to bed. Audrey's residence will no longer host family gatherings. No more spending time with Ella unattended. And Audrey needed to know exactly why those boundaries were being established. Audrey called the following morning. Arya remained silent. An hour later she made another call. No response once more. Then the texts began to arrive. Audrey first, followed by Mark and Michelle. Every variant of, "You're overreacting. And she didn't mean it that way. And family is important. Don't throw it away over a misunderstanding." As if it were possible to misunderstand. Arya finally texted Audrey back saying, "These are for my real grandchildren. What you said to Ella was cruel and unacceptable. Until you can apologize to her directly and acknowledge that she is your grandchild, your real grandchild, we won't be attending any more family events." 10 minutes later, Audrey responded, "I will not be apologizing for speaking the truth. She's not my biological grandchild, and everyone knows it. You're being ridiculous and teaching her to be entitled." That was all. The last nail in the coffin of Audrey's relationship with our family. I saw Arya's face tighten in a way I had never seen before when she showed me the text. This was the lady who had spent 9 years attempting to win her mother's approval, who had gone to great lengths to meet Audrey's tastes and opinions, and who had offered justifications for years of covert partiality. And Audrey had ruined that relationship in a single text message. When Arya said, "We're done. I'm done. She'll never meet our next child. She'll never be alone with Ella again. And I'm not going to any family events if she's there." We'd decided we were done with the adoption, so I inquired, perplexed. "What next child?" "We're going to adopt again," Arya firmly declared. "Maybe 2 more kids if we can afford it, and Audrey will never meet any of them. She wants real grandchildren. Fine. She can focus on the ones she has. Mine will never have to feel that rejection." In that instant, I loved my wife more than I had in years. We disregarded every call and message from Audrey's side of the family during the course of the following week. Mark attempted to mediate the situation by proposing that we all get together and have an adult conversation. Michelle sent this lengthy letter of shame about how family is forever, and that we cannot allow one argument to destroy us all. Arya's answer to both of them was straightforward. "Your mother told my daughter she's not real family and bought expensive gifts for your kids while deliberately excluding mine. If you think that's acceptable behavior, then we don't have anything to talk about." They didn't react to that. We received an invitation to Mark's oldest child's birthday celebration at Audrey's house 2 weeks after the iPhone incident. As if nothing had occurred. For the first time since we had left, Arya gave Mark a call. She said, "Is Mom going to be at the party?" Mark said, "Well, yeah, it's at her house." As if it were clear. "Then we won't be there." "Come on, Arya, you can't keep avoiding her forever, just apologize and move on." Arya's voice became frigid. "Apologize?" she asked. "Apologize for what exactly? For making such a big deal out of nothing? Mom feels bad about the whole phone thing. If she feels bad, she can call Ella and apologize to her directly. Until then, we're not coming to any events where she'll be present. You're being unreasonable. According to Mark, the kids miss each other. Then you're welcome to bring them to our house anytime, but I'm not exposing Ella to someone who thinks she's not real family." Mark ended the call. Without us, the birthday celebration came and went. Instead, it was the 3 of us that took Ella to an amusement park that day. She enjoyed eating expensive theme park fare and riding the cat roller coasters. Never inquired about her cousins. Audrey began acting shady at that point. She started sharing on social media how devastated she was that certain family members were choosing to harbor resentment rather than forgiving and moving on, and how her own daughter was silently punishing her for a minor error. How terrible it was for her to be cut off from her grandchildren's life, and how essential family is. "Praying for peace," she said in one of her posts. "When you raise your children with love and they turn around and take your grandchildren away over a misunderstanding, it breaks your heart." Inquiring about what transpired, Arya's pals began emailing her screenshots of these posts. Some of them took Audrey's side, arguing that Arya had to forgive her mother and be the greater person. Others wrote supportive notes as soon as they understood. Those that supported Audrey were given a thorough account of what had truly transpired. It was intentional cruelty to a 7-year-old child, not a miscommunication or little error. After that, the majority of them soon altered their minds. Audrey's social media effort, however, did have an impact. Members of the extended family began attempting to mediate. Audrey hardly ever had regular conversations with Aria's aunts, uncles, cousins, and even the siblings of her late father. They all received the same message. While giving all the other grandchildren pricey presents, Audrey informed Ella that she was not her biological granddaughter. "We'll talk about mending our connection if she expresses her regret to Ella and admits her mistake. We are shielding our daughter from emotional assault till then." After that, the majority of them gave up on mediating. Aria quickly shot down the "but she's your mother" guilt trip that some of the elder relatives attempted. "Being someone's mother doesn't give you the right to hurt their children," she said to her Aunt Margaret over a particularly contentious phone chat. "If my own mother can't treat my daughter with basic respect, then she doesn't get access to her. It's that simple." Audrey unexpectedly came up at our place 3 weeks after the incident. Ella was watching cartoons in the living room on a Saturday morning as Aria and I prepared brunch. We were anticipating a delivery of groceries, so I went to answer the doorbell without looking through the peephole. Rather, I saw Audrey standing on our porch with a wrapped gift in her finest church attire, as if she were going to a funeral. "I'd like to speak with Aria," she remarked formally. I said, "She doesn't want to talk to you," and started to shut the door. "This is between me and my daughter. You have no right to keep us apart. Actually, I have every right to decide who comes into my house, and you're not welcome here." Audrey's calm face shattered a little. "I'm her mother, and you told our daughter she's not real family. So no, you don't get to show up here and demand anything. I brought a gift for Ella, an apology gift. She doesn't want your gifts. You couldn't even treat her the way the other of your grandchildren were treated." Then Aria heard the rising sounds and came up behind me. I watched something die in her eyes as she turned to face her mother, who was standing on our porch. That final glimmer of optimism that Audrey would somehow put everything right. Aria asked bluntly, "What do you want, Mom?" Audrey remarked, "I came to apologize," while displaying the wrapped present. "I bought Ella an iPhone too. I realized I made a mistake, and I want to make it right." The problem with too little, too late apologies is as follows. An apology is better than none at all, because they demonstrate that the individual is aware of their mistakes and only cares about correcting them when they are subject to repercussions. "You think you can show up here with a phone and everything's fine?" Aria replied. "I'm trying to make amends." Audrey made a defensive statement. "Isn't that what you wanted? From the beginning, I wanted you to treat my daughter as your granddaughter. I didn't want you to tell a 7-year-old that she isn't true family, nor did I want you to purposefully leave her out of a family gift in front of everyone." "I didn't say that," Audrey objected. "Yes, you did. You said the phones were for your real grandchildren. Everyone heard you." "I misspoke. I meant my other grandchildren. It came out wrong." "No, Mom. What you said was precisely what you meant. The less expensive Christmas presents, the missed birthdays, and the fact that you take Mark's and Michelle's children on special outings but never invite Ella are all examples of how you've been treating Ella differently from the day we adopted her. I'm done making excuses for you. I've been doing it for 9 years. Audrey's cheeks flushed. "I've tried with that child. It's not my fault we don't have a connection." I said, "That child has a name. And the reason you don't have a connection is because you've never tried. You decided the day we adopted her that she wasn't really your grandchild, and you've treated her accordingly." "She's not my blood," Audrey abruptly said, abandoning her courteous demeanor. "I'm sorry, but that matters. It matters to me. I can't help how I feel." "Then we can't help how we feel about you being in our lives," Aria muttered. She closed the door and said, "Goodbye, Mom." For an additional 7 minutes, Audrey stood on our porch, pounding and yelling Aria's name. Until she eventually departed, we disregarded her. Aria's phone was inundated with texts that afternoon from Mark and Michelle, who were upset that we had rejected Audrey when she attempted to apologize. They said that by punishing their mother for a sincere error and destroying the family, we were being obstinate and unkind. Aria was tough yet measured in her answer to the family group chat. "This isn't about harboring resentment. Rather, it's about shielding our daughter from someone who has made it very clear that she will never accept her as true family. Mom came here today not to truly apologize, but to try to buy her way back into our lives with a gift. She told me straight out that she can't connect with Ella because she's not her blood. She called her that child instead of using her name. You are free to keep up your friendship with Ella and us, But we will not be going to any occasions where Mom is present, and she is not allowed in our house." "This is ridiculous. She's your mother," Mark retorted. "You're being so dramatic over a phone," Michelle continued. Arya gave one last response. "This isn't about a phone. This is about 9 years of favoritism and emotional neglect toward my daughter, culminating in her being told she's not real family. If you can't understand why that's unacceptable, then we don't have anything else to discuss." Then she turned off the group chat. A new normal was established during the course of the following month. On social media, Audrey persisted in her martyrdom campaign, portraying herself as the victim of an unappreciative daughter who had taken away her grandkids due to a single error. Her version was accepted by some. The majority of those who were aware of the truth didn't. After a couple of weeks, Mark and Michelle gave up on mediating. They kept bringing their children to Audrey's family dinners and sharing joyful family pictures that blatantly left out Arya's family. I would observe Arya's emotional processing after she saw these pictures. She was hurt that her siblings preferred to stand behind their mother. We were relieved that we were no longer exposing Ella to that setting. Sorrow at losing the family she had known as a child. One evening, after seeing a picture of Audrey at a restaurant with all of the grandchildren but Ella, she asked me, "Do you think I did the right thing?" I answered, "Absolutely," without thinking twice. "You protected our daughter from someone who was hurting her. That's exactly what a good parent does." "But what if Ella grows up and resents me for keeping her from her grandmother? If she grows up and we explain that we kept her away from someone who told her she wasn't real family, who treated her worse than her cousins, who couldn't love her the way she deserved, she's going to thank you." Arya gave a nod. However, it was evident to me that she continued to feel guilty over severing ties with her own mother. About 7 weeks after the iPhone incident, the true turning moment occurred. After years of knowing Audrey through different social circles, Arya's friend Grace called with some intriguing news. It seems that Audrey had been informing members of her religious group that Arya had taken Ella in order to harm her. That Arya wanted to punish Audrey for not being supportive enough during the process, which is why we decided on adoption rather than continuing reproductive procedures. That we were waging a fictitious family war with Ella as a weapon. The story was plainly crazy, but Audrey was spreading it to everyone who would listen, portraying herself as the victim of our ruthless manipulation while at the same time refusing to admit that it could have been wrong to tell a child she wasn't true family. After hearing this at a church potluck, Grace called Arya right away to let her know that Audrey was spreading these rumors. She had even claimed that, rather than because Audrey had done anything wrong, we were keeping Ella away from her biological grandma out of resentment. The story has been entirely revised by her. Grace responded, "Everyone at church thinks you're this horrible daughter who adopted a child just to exclude your mother from her life." After thanking Grace for the heads up, Arya sat silently for a while, taking in this new information. "It's wild." "She's never going to admit she was wrong," Arya replied at last. "She's never going to apologize to Ella. She's never going to see her as a real grandchild. This is who she is." "Yeah," I said, "she is that person. Are you okay with the fact that she is no longer in our lives and that we are truly done?" After giving it some thought, Arya nodded. "Yes, I believe I am. It aches, but I don't mind because Ella deserves better than to be treated like a second-class citizen because we adopted her. We're done because, to be honest, I deserve better too. I've spent my entire life trying to live up to my mother's unachievable standards and make her proud, but she still decided to harm my child." Their relationship ended with that talk, not with a dramatic walkout, a closed door, or a blocked phone call. This silent acknowledgement that Audrey would never be Ella's ideal grandmother, and since we would shield Ella from that letdown, it was okay. We were able to return to our regular lifestyles 2 months following the iPhone event. After a few weeks, Ella stopped inquiring about Grandma Audrey, and we continued to engage in our own family activities. We would bring her school classmates home for playdates, take her to the park, and host movie evenings. She was content. What was important was that Arya continued to have a tense relationship with Mark and Michelle. The easy sibling relationship they had previously shared was gone, but they would occasionally text each other about unrelated subjects. Arya couldn't forgive them both because they hadn't defended Ella when it counted. We also began to seriously consider re-expanding our family through adoption during this period. We had always discussed the possibility of having 2 children, as Arya had indicated that first evening. However, Arya was adamant about adopting once more following the Audrey incident. "I want Ella to have a sibling who understands what it's like to be adopted," she said. "Someone who gets it. And I want Audrey to know that we're building our own family without her." We began the process of adopting a second kid. Because we had been through it before, we were considerably more confident in our abilities this time. Michelle called Aria 4 months after she had cut off contact with Audrey. She was on the verge of not responding when something prompted her to do so. Michelle said, "Mom's in the hospital." Without hesitation. She had a heart attack. Aria's face turned white. This was still her mother in spite of everything. "Is she okay?" inquired Aria. "She's stable. They did surgery. But Finn, she's been asking for you. She wants to see you." I could see Aria's internal conflict as she looked at me. There was a part of her that wanted to run to the hospital, the part that was Ella's mother, the part that had seen our daughter cry when she was told she wasn't really family, but that part remained strong. "I need to think about it," Aria replied. "I'll call you back." We had a conversation after she hung up. It was unclear if Audrey's behavior had changed as a result of this medical emergency, or if it had only momentarily eclipsed the effects she had been dealing with. "If you visit her at the hospital, she's going to think everything's forgiven," I said. "She's going to expect things to go back to normal." Aria, "I know," she said. "But what if she dies and I never talk to her again? What if this is my last chance?" "Your last chance to do what? Hear her not apologize again? Watch her not acknowledge what she did to Ella? You've given her so many chances already." An hour later, Aria gave Michelle another call. "Ella isn't coming, so I'll visit the hospital, but it doesn't imply we're making amends. Nothing has changed regarding our boundaries, but I still want to make sure she's all right." "Fine," Michelle responded with a sigh of relief. "Just come." That night, Aria visited the hospital. Ella was contentedly unaware of the drama unfolding at the medical facility across town, so I stayed at home with her. 3 hours later, Aria arrived home looking worn out. I inquired, "How is she?" "Stable. Recovery will take a few weeks, but she'll be fine." Aria kicked off her shoes and slumped on the couch. She inquired about Ella. "What did she say?" "She said she missed her granddaughter and wanted to see her." I informed her that Ella wasn't present. She became angry and claimed that I was denying her grandchildren when she had a chance to pass away. Her grandchildren, in the plural. "Yeah, that's what I said too." I questioned whether Ella was now her grandchild. She became upset and said she had never stated that, and that I was exaggerating the situation after I had been telling her for months that she wasn't actually family. Of course she did. I told her I didn't want to revisit the past. All I wanted to do was check on her. She attempted to make me feel horrible about being a bad daughter, leaving her when she most needed me, and all the typical things. I informed her that I was heading out and that she could give me a call when she was prepared to truly apologize to Ella. After that, I departed. "How do you feel?" Aria considered it. "Relieved, honestly. I thought maybe the heart attack would have changed something. Made her realize life's too short to die on this hill. However, she is the same. I can now be certain that we made the proper decision." A week later, Audrey was discharged from the hospital. Since she was still having trouble climbing stairs, she temporarily moved into Mark's single-story home while she recovered. During this period, Mark tried one more time to encourage Aria to reconcile with their mother. He called and left a lengthy message about how everyone was being harmed by this resentment, how family was vital, and how Audrey was growing older. Aria replied by SMS, "We're done until Mom truly apologizes to Ella and promises to treat her like the rest of her grandchildren. You may accept it or not. It's not a grudge. It's a boundary. Mom damaged my daughter and won't own it. However, this is no longer debatable." Mark remained silent. Aria and I finished the home study for our second adoption 6 months after the iPhone incident. After receiving approval, we were added to the child match waiting list. We kept it a secret from Aria's relatives. Not Michelle, not Mark, and most definitely not Audrey. They had given up their right to participate in these special times, and this was a decision made by our family. When we gave us clearance, Aria's pals threw her a little party, and Ella was delighted about perhaps being a big sister. That was all the assistance we required. After 7 months, Audrey wrote a letter to our home. An actual handwritten letter, as if she were someone's grandmother in a historical drama, rather than a text or email. Audrey sent a 3-page letter outlining her thoughts on everything that had transpired. How Aria's overreaction had caught her off guard. How she had been turned down when she tried to apologize. How family members ought to forgive one another. How she didn't want to pass away with this divide between them as she grew older. She never once expressed regret for referring to Ella as not real family. She never once acknowledged the suffering she had inflicted. She never once accepted true accountability for her deeds. After reading the letter, Aria placed it in a drawer without answering. All she said was that she still didn't understand. We were paired with our second kid, Cooper, a 4-year-old boy who had been in foster care when his parents' rights were terminated, 8 months after the iPhone incident. Despite having a difficult beginning to life, he was said to be kind and strong. When we first met him 3 weeks later, it was obvious that he was destined to be our son. He was first reserved and cautious, but he soon warmed up to Ella. Within an hour of meeting, they were playing together. Since Cooper was already in state custody, his adoption procedure proceeded more quickly than Ella's. He moved in with us full-time after 2 months, and the finalization was set for a month later. What a wonderful big sister Ella was. She showed Cooper about the house, helped him get settled, and was incredibly kind when he had rough days or battled nightmares from his traumatic history. The majority of Arya's extended family was not informed of the adoption, nor was it publicized on social media. It wasn't exactly a secret. We just weren't sharing our life events with those who had shown themselves to be unsupportive. Arya's close friends were aware of us, and joined us in celebrating. Cooper was welcomed right away by my family, who were ecstatic. That was sufficient. A month or so after Cooper moved in with us, Audrey learned about it via a mutual acquaintance who had seen us out with both children. Over the course of one evening, she made several calls to Arya's phone before she answered. Audrey's voice was harsh with outrage as she asked, "You adopted another child and didn't tell me?" Arya gently questioned, "Why would I tell you? You made it very clear that adopted grandchildren aren't real family to you." "That's not what I said. You have 8 months to make amends and apologize to Ella for what you said. No, you no longer learn about our family because you have spent that time rewriting history and playing the victim. I have a right to know my grandchildren." "No, you don't. You should concentrate on your current grandchildren, Mark's children, Michelle's children, and the ones you see as true family. You cannot deny me access to my grandchildren. They're not your grandchildren, Mom. You made that clear. Goodbye." Arya blocked Audrey's number and hung up. When Audrey learned about Cooper, the consequences quickly became apparent. She increased the intensity of her social media campaign once more, posting about how she had been cut off from her grandchildren's lives and had not even been informed about their new family members. There were many who pitied her. The majority of those who were aware of the true tale were able to identify manipulation. Mark called Arya to scold her for not telling their mother about the adoption. Arya reminded him that by treating adoptive grandkids as inferior, their mother had made a fool of herself. Michelle sent a lengthy text message explaining that Audrey was becoming older and would not be there forever, that family members should forgive and move on, and that harboring resentment only affected Arya. Any further attempts at guilt-tripping were stopped by Arya's response. "I blame Audrey, not me, for choosing her pride over her relationship with my family, when she had the option to treat Ella with basic respect if she wanted to be a part of our life. Additionally, I won't subject Cooper to the same rejection and partiality that Ella went through. Both of them deserve better." The current day. Our family of 4 is doing well about a year after the iPhone tragedy. 3 months ago, Cooper's adoption was completed. He's adapted to his new life quite well, and we're thrilled to see him and Ella grow up as siblings. Holidays are observed with Arya's close pals and my side of the family. We establish our own customs and go on family vacations. The drama, partiality, and ongoing emotional control that accompanied keeping up a connection with Audrey are not missed. Maybe once a month Arya and Mark have quick, insignificant chats about unimportant topics. Since the Cooper adoption announcement, she hasn't spoken to Michelle at all. As the martyred grandma who was brutally cut off by her unappreciative daughter, Audrey maintains her social media presence. Some individuals accept her account of what happened. The majority of those in close proximity to the situation are more knowledgeable. 8-year-old Ella occasionally inquires about Grandma Audrey, but she doesn't appear to be troubled by her departure. My family and Arya's chosen circle of acquaintances provide her with a large number of grandparents. She never needs to question whether she is truly family since she is content and cherished.